Hello everyone, welcome to today's editorial analysis. As you know that we analyze the editorial of Hindu and the Indian Express of the day. This is the initiative of Apti Plus powered by ISGAN. Now moving ahead, I'd like to share a piece of information with you people who are preparing for Civil Services 2019 as well as 20. Apti Plus has come up with a mock test series where you will get 8 sectional tests and including the 4 full length tests will be there, followed by 2 essay writing tests. So this will be a comprehensive test where you can get an idea, you will have a holistic picture of how we write the examination, and the exact feedback will be also given to you. So you can enroll both online as well offline. These are some of the contact details where you can refer, and for more details you can just ping to our website as well. Now moving ahead, in the Hindu we have 2 important editorial which is there. The first talks about the reclaiming of the space in the non-violence. Basically it talks about the non-violence against the minorities which has been reported in the recent time. It also talks about the incident which has took place in the Jharkhand where the minorities was beaten. No, it has beaten to an extent that he could have died also. So she talks about Mrs. Neera that the civic society must reinvent, they should reinvent as a Gandhi as a political philosopher, okay, and a struggle against the violence. So it's a very good editorial when it comes to the philosophical part. You can read it on, and in this particular editorial she has provided a picture that how ill tolerant we are and what could be our tolerance level. The government, what could be the government intervention? We cannot leave that vacuum. Okay, so this is being addressed in this editorial. Now talking about the second editorial which is there, Mr. S. Nagaraj, who has wrote this editorial, he talks about not by the wishful thinking. Basically he talks about in this editorial about the NITI Aayog meeting with the Prime Minister, and they had targeted a 5 trillion economy for India and a growth. So this is what is there in this editorial. We'll discuss in the detail of that. Now moving ahead to the editorial of the Indian Express. See, if you talk about the Indian Express, the first editorial which is there, it talks about the India-US relation. Okay, it talks about the India relation and the nuances of the India-US relation, because see what India is wanting. There has been a very tussle between India-US relation after that tariff hikes. India has increased the tariff of 28 goods. There was an editorial which was made by us, so you can refer to that editorial as well. And this was in the retaliation of that US has made to the steel and aluminum product. Okay, they have raised the tariffs for that. So it again comes to give a foresight for the India-US relation. So again you can have a look. See, once an event is been taking place, suppose US President come to India or US Secretary of State come to India or a Prime Minister visit at a particular agreement like G20 was there. So you will get the subsequent news by the follows days. So news will be repeated and will be developing over the days. So just what do you one thing, jot down the important points and make a separate sheet so that you can include the points over there. Just as editorial you can add that up the points. Okay. Now the second editorial which talk about the Bihar issues, the acute encephalitis which was reported there. So this editorial basically talks about, it was not in Muzaffarpur, it was not the lychee which could be blamed. It was because of the malnutrition. It was because of the malnutrition that the tolerance was not there to the lychees as a toxic. It acted as a toxic to the children. So we do not, apart from the medical amenities, medical health cares, upgradation of the hospitals, we also need to work upon the malnutrition. See, malnutrition contribute a large chunk to the population. Okay. And I told you that in Muzaffarpur, they are like, if you talk about the other African countries as well, Muzaffarpur has the worst malnutrition. That editorial also has been made by me, so you can refer to that editorial as well. You'll get the picture, the figures are also mentioned. So again, you can have a read on this. It's a good editorial. Now moving ahead to what we will be discussing today. And as you know that the entire content of the discussion is being given in the description box of this channel, so you can refer to the description for more. If you want to get a notes of it, so you can refer the description. So this editorial, Mr. R. Nagaraj, he's uh, he's basically associated with the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research in Mumbai. So he talks about the 5 trillion Indian economy. That was the target which was being set by the NITI Aayog meeting. So he talks about what could be the feasibility, what are the concern, and how India could achieve it. What are the challenges? Okay, so we'll look into the details of it. So going by the hierarchy of the content and the need of the content, we'll be looking the entire editorial. Now, see what has happened. This editorial talks about the background or the backdrop of that in the recent June meeting. The meeting was held, NITI Aayog meeting, and the Prime Minister said that the Prime Minister has targeted. The meeting was decided that India would be a 5 trillion economy. We will set that target that our 5 trillion economy would be there by 2024. Okay, so this was the target. This was basically to, I mean, these are the economic target which was set. Okay, so we'll be hitting by 2024 this target, 5 trillion economy. So this was set. Now to meet the target set by the NITI Aayog chaired by the Prime Minister, there are certain things which we need to focus upon. Okay, so see, talking about, see, India, we talk about the provisional GDP 2018, and the current price is somewhere like 2.7 trillion. We are now into 2.7 trillion of the economy. See, dear who are listening to these videos, I'll tell you the figure which is being quoted in this slides and this videos. So please mind it that these can be important. You can use this points as a fodder in the examination. I have extracted the most important content so that they can help you, and do not waste your time in just mugging up other things. Just be crisp, read it. This is very useful. Okay, apart from that, it will it means that the annual per capita income of India is somewhere 11,900 per month. Okay, again this figure is important. You can write this. Means agar if come to the per capita income, so you can quote there. I mean, economy की अगर बात आती है तो you can easily write this. Now the target implies that the output expansion कितना होगा? Expansion would be by 84%. This would be expanded by the 84% in 5 years, over the 5 years. और अभी की बात करें तो it is like 30% of the compounded annual growth rate. ठीक है? Now assuming that the annual price rise is 4%, जैसे अगर हम बात करें तो हमारा जो रिजर्व बैंक है, the Reserve Bank of India has a set of target for the annual price rise of 4%. ठीक है? इन्होंने they have set a target. तो यहाँ पे क्या बात आती है? The requirement for the rate in real or the inflation adjusted in terms of 9% per year. ठीक है? सो ये टारगेट हमें दिया हुआ है तो वी कैन नॉट डेविएट फ्रॉम इट. तो हमें आरबीआई की जो इन्फ्लेशन की जो टारगेट है उसको भी ध्यान में रखने की जरूरत है. अगर हम प्रेजेंट की बात करें, इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द प्रेजेंट इंडिया ग्रोइंग विद द पेस इज 7.1%. 7.1% per year over the last 5 years, you can say. ठीक है? And the annual growth rate has never touched the 9%. To meet this target, we need at least a rate which is somewhere close to 9% or more than that. So hence the target seems to be ambitious. The target set by the NITI Aayog of the 5 trillion could be an ambitious target, but despite the fact, we have to seize the feasibility of that. We have to come to the execution part. The major challenge is to how to execute it, considering the challenge of the Indian economies and the other sectors as well. Now moving ahead, if you talk about, the editorial also talks about the performance of the other Asian countries who has done exceptionally well. I mean, if you talk about the China, historically what they have unprecedented growth. And the best part is like in the best 5 years, between 2003 to 7, they have grew up to 11.7%. So you can see where India is growing by 7%, the other countries like China, and if you talk about the South Korea, I mean, they grew in 1883 they grew by 11%. So somehow over the years they are only increasing, they're not decreasing. Okay, somehow they're only increasing. So you will see, I mean, the gravity is like India need to work harder on their policies as such. We'll discuss that. Now moving ahead, how this target could be achieved, the target set of 5 trillion, how this could be achieved. See, to achieve this target, you need to understand, to achieve this target, India need to have just to pace the domestic saving and raise the fixed investment rate, we need to pace the domestic saving rate, and at the same time we need to raise the fixed investment rates. If you talk, history shows that no countries has succeeded. Neither of the countries has succeeded in accelerating the growth without these two things. Apart from domestic saving and without the raising the fixed interest investment. Okay, and that is some close to 40% of the GDP. Now, if you talk about the foreign capital, to achieve this target, you need to have a foreign capital that can play a vital role. That can play a vital gaps to substitute, but it would not be in a substitute to the domestic resources. Okay. Now, what is other points which how you can achieve the target of 9% would be that India need to have a turn into the investment-led economy. We need to have an investment-led economy because it happened. It happened with the India during 2003-2000 financial crisis. Before that, okay, so we have achieved. See, after globalization, so we have increased our success rate as well. The growth in the GDP has increased, but subsequently we have not maintained that sustainability. Okay, so we need to work on the investment-led economy. Now, talking about the last 5 years on the average, the domestic saving rate is somewhere 30.8% of the gross GDP income, GNDI. Okay, and if you talk about the investment rate, gross capital performance of the GDP ratio was close to 32.5%. Okay, so these are the figures, again important for you. Now, to achieve the target of 9% annual growth rate, if India has set a target of 9% annual growth rate, what we can do? We can have it calls for 39% of the domestic saving rate. It calls for 39% of the domestic saving rate and 41% of the investment rate. This is the domestic saving where it would be 39%. And if you talk about the raising investment, it would be close to 41.2%. Okay. Now, these are the 41.2% of the investment. Now, if you talk about the shares of private consumption that need to shrink, see, if you talk like 50% of the GDP from the current level is 59% of the GDP at current price, right? It should be about 50% of the current level, or 59% of the current prices. Okay, you do not get confused in that. Now, assuming that the capital inflow which is remain and still it's 1.7% of GDP. The capital inflow जो है, foreign capital inflow है, वो is 1.7% of the GDP. So this could be important for you. This is only 1% of the GDP, the foreign inflow जो हमारा capital है. Now, talking about the concern, the editorial talks about the concern as well. What are the major concerns that need to be taken care of to execute the growth of 9%? Okay, so to achieve the target of 9%, the Indian economy has to grow at the much slower pace. What it has did, they have not, the sustainability of the growth rate has been lowered. It has not increased. So the concern is like it has grown to the much slower pace than the officially claimed. Okay, जितना भी anticipate किया गया था, from Office of the Economic Advisor और other NITI Aayog as well, तो वहाँ पे कम आई है. उससे हमारा जो targets है, we have achieved less. So this is a great concern, first and foremost. Now, if you talk about the ongoing GDP debate, that suggests that it's almost 4.5%. Okay, close to 4.5%. Now, again coming to the low domestic saving rate. See, हमें ज़रूरत है कि we have to increase that domestic rate saving, है ना, वहाँ हमें increase करने की ज़रूरत है. But what is happening? It has not been increased. It has been low. It has low domestic rate. So Indian economies has slowed down. उससे हुआ क्या? The domestic rate has declined from 31.4% to 29.96%. And what was the target? The target was somewhere between 39%. ठीक है, तो यहाँ हमें टारगेट है 39% की. The target is 39% and we have only declined from 31 to 29. So you can see ये 29 पे आ गया है, तो almost 10. ठीक है. Now moving ahead, The bank sectors, I mean, talking about the bank sectors, the ability to boost the credit is limited. I mean, bank are also have some, they have not performed reasonably well in the coming years. Or I mean, the past years they were not a good performance as well. Or the issues of वो इस वजह से भी हुआ because the non-performing assets issues were grown up to so high. The Punjab National, you can see the PNB crisis. You have seen the Narendra Modi, the Vijay Mallya's, the people excavating from India. So no, they had again looms a financial problem. I mean, that has again boosted credit inflows in the country. तो वहाँ पे NPS का इशू काफ़ी बढ़ चुका है. Now talking about the export to GDP ratios, the export to GDP ratios has also declined. The export to GDP ratio has also declined. और जहाँ तक बात करें global trade war की, जैसे India, I mean, if you talk about the US and Iran, basically if you talk about US ईरान, तो वहाँ पे ट्रेड वॉर की वजह से भी देयर हैज़ बीन फॉल इन द एक्सपोर्ट टू जीडीपी रेशियो. हमारा यूएस के साथ भी दिस प्रॉब्लम. अगेन वी टॉक अबाउट द चाइना, तो थोड़ा सा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का वी वांट कि हमारा अपना इनिशिएटिव हो. तो दैट all picture has also the sum up to the decline of the export to the GDP ratios. Okay. Now the editor talks about some could be the possible way ahead, and what you can also write in the examination is like the government and the policy maker should begin with the realistic assessment. Where we need to figure it out for the realistic assessment. देखो ज़रूरत है, आपने एक टारगेट सेट कर दिया. You have set a 5 trillion. Okay. You have set a 5 trillion with 9% of the growth rate. So now you need to see in the realistic manner. The realistic assessment should be there कि what are the core areas we need to work upon. ज़रूरत है उससे गवर्नमेंट और अदर स्टेक होल्डर्स की, पॉलिसी मेकर्स को उस पर देखें. उसके बाद ये सबसे बड़ी ज़रूरत है, जो हमारी टारगेट है ऑलमोस्ट 39%, विच इज़ प्रेजेंटली एट 29%. ठीक है, विच इज़ प्रेजेंटली एट 29%. तो हमें ज़रूरत है इसको इंक्रीज करने की. सो वी नीड टू इंक्रीज अप टू द डोमेस्टिक सेविंग एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट. Okay, and if you talk about the investment is close to somewhere 42.5%. That is what we need, 42.5%. Okay, so these are the things where we could achieve the target. So this was basically the summary of this editorial. This is a very helpful editorial. You will get many fodder points. You can directly quote this figures in the examination, and you will definitely have an edge with other student who are appearing with you. So please take these things for your preparation, and for more details please refer to the description, where you will get the crisp notes as such for this editorial what we have discussed. So I thank you so much for listening to the editorial session, and if you have any doubt, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you, and I wish you all the best. Keep your work hard, keep rocking. Thank you for listening.